right, at this time, I'm going to call to order the meeting of October 5th, 2020. Vice Mayor Spencer, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Velazquez,
Here.
Councilmember Lenore,
Present.
Councilmember Resendez,
Present.
Vice Mayor Spencer,
Present.
City Manager Miller,
Present.
City Attorney Epperson,
Here.
Interim Police Chief Reynoso.
Here.
Thank you. The agenda for the City of Hollister City Council regular meeting of October 5th, 2020 was posted on the bulletin board on September 30th, 2020 at 3:30 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull?
No.
Do we have any from the audience?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. A1 and A2 are being pulled by a member of the public. Is he on? Yep.
Who is it?
Samir Hamana.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead on A1, Samir. We can hear you. Samir? Hello? Samir, did you want to speak? He's not muted. He's on.
Okay, do we have any other speakers?
We have no other speakers, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. This time we're going to go ahead and close that. Is there a motion from the council?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're going to move to public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Mr. Mayor, I'm unclear on that. Susan Logue signed up to speak, but didn't state what she wanted to speak on. So,
Always the library.
Susan, did you want to speak?
Usually the library.
Susan?
Sorry, there I am. Okay, I just wanted to say thank you everyone for being here, and that the Friends of the Library are going to have a virtual auction to help support the library with its outreach, and we'll be looking for that to be launched on October 19th. So thank you so much for your time and all you do.
Thank you, Susan.
Mhm.
And
Any
then
other-
I had Ronald Ward sign up several times. I think he has actually said that he wants to speak on E3, but he signed up so many times, I'm not sure if he needed to public comment as well. Ronald?
Can you hear me?
We can?
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had problems with my computer, and so I probably signed up about 15 times. So I'm sorry about that. But we're just waiting for an agenda matter to.
So you want E3 then, Ronald?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I don't need to say anything more.
I'm just making
Thank you.
sure. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for checking. Bye.
Thank you.
And I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move to
You
item
do,
D1, city
Elia.
manager's
Elia.
report.
How come you give her?
I
your-
had no more speaker
Give her your
cards.
card.
I do have Elia who would like to speak.
Oh, you do?
Good evening, council members. I would like to request, because I haven't heard anything, on an update on what is the status with negotiating with Recology. I heard that there's a status report tomorrow with the County Board of Supervisors, and I'd like to know what the status is, if they can come bring it back on the next agenda. If the council members could ask for that, I would be greatly appreciated. I also want to point out that I understand that, I haven't seen it myself, but that the homeless have been removed from Dunn Park. However, they are all now at the 300, not all, but there's many have as set encampment on the 300 block of 4th Street.
The corner of
The
Fourth and
corner of
Monterey.
4th Street, the vacant lot there. It's unsightly. I know that we have an issue, and I don't know what can be done about it. Some of these people don't want to go into the homeless shelter that we have here. I would like for the council to consider bringing back an issue, and I know that we're in a recession crisis right now, but Mayor Velasquez, for quite some time, and I don't know what happened to that project, and I thought it was great, you kept bringing it up, and it just kind of died, is to come back and reconsider doing the miniature homes, the mini homes,
You're still-
mini park, something that we can do for the homeless out there. There's a lot of actually federal grants, federal money that doesn't have to get paid back to the federal government to help us with building those out. I was scheduled right before COVID hit. I was going to be going to Fresno, and I went to San Jose where they have these mini home camps for the homeless people. And I'd like to see if maybe we can try to bring that back up and see what we can do for our local homeless residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Is there anyone else in the audience that did not give me a speaker card that would like to speak? Public comment? Anything not on the agenda? I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go back to D1, city manager. Do you want to address that first, that comment?
Yeah, on the next agenda meeting, we will be having a recology item, so it will be addressed at that time. And then on the homeless at the corner of Monterey and 4th, the property owner has been notified, and they are taking care of the matter.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have to report.
Item D2.
No training at this time.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to move to item E1.
Staff is on their way up.
Good evening. My name is Brian Swanson. Serve as the Development Services Director for the City of Hollister. Mayor Velasquez, City Council members, the ordinance before you was crafted in a collaborative way with the Code Enforcement Division, the Police Department, and the City Attorney's Office. And so we sat down, we talked about how can we help improve shopping carts in the community. This isn't particular for Hollister. Just for Hollister, it's across the state. Shopping carts and communities throughout the state do need to have little regulations to them. So this ordinance gives the city a tool to be able to take shopping carts that are in our parks, in our beautiful parks, in our public places, in our sidewalks, and we're able to take those and remove those. And so this evening, wanted to bring forward this ordinance to the council to consider looking at, and this is a first reading of the ordinance, and if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
I have comment, but I'll wait till after the public hearing. If there's any other comments from the public?
Any other questions from council? Brian, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
How does this differ from the existing ordinance we have about the shopping carts that we put in a couple years ago?
Yeah, so, Mayor, it's a really great question. The previous ordinance included abandoned carts, and so this is active shopping carts that individuals may use to carry, to transport in, and so the detail of the abandonment compared to what we have now of just shopping carts will give our code enforcement professionals the ability to enforce this ordinance on removing those shopping carts that are actively used.
Perfect, thank you very much. Okay, at this time, if there's no other questions from council, we will open it, the public hearing to the public. Do we have any speaker cards?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Gina Anati?
Hi, good evening. My name's Gina Nadi. I'm here in regards to E1, the shopping cart ordinance. I own 2 properties on 7th Street, which is right around the corner from Dunn Park.
I'm sorry, if we cannot hear you very well. You can
You could-
speak a
there you
little
go.
closer to the microphone.
That's fine.
Okay, I own 2
Thank you.
properties on 7th Street, which is right around the corner from Dunn Park. Over the last 5 years, we have seen, thank you.
She had it good.
Yeah, I'll hold it. Our homeless crew go from, and when I say crew, it almost became like a little gang. As soon as they were more or less allowed to set up shop on one section of the block, more came. It was almost like, call your buddy, hey, they're letting us do this. And what they did was, they did drugs out in the open. They drink alcohol out in the open. They use tarps to cover up different activity they do. They're drug deals. They took over Dunn Park. Nobody was using our park, and it's a beautiful park. I'm here because it went so far as people in our neighborhood calling the police department not having enough people to enforce what was going on. But when you're having people having sex in the park, being naked in the park in the middle of the day, and when an 8-year-old girl comes out of her home and sees it, and the parents call the police, and the police come and say, well, I'm sorry, we can't do it, we're gonna tell him to leave, that's all we can do, because, that's all, he'll come back and do it again. So sure enough, they came back, and this little girl and her family, which live on West Street, it's a stone throw to where 20 of these people were gathering. And they could go to the homeless shelter. I have a log of the capacity every day at the homeless shelter and the homeless shelter not being used. So this is a choice. This is a choice of to drink there because they're being allowed to have sex in the open because they're being allowed to, because it's not being enforced. I don't know about you, but as city leaders, as parents, as mentors, as people that these kids look up to, every daughter or son is ours. No child should have to go out of their front yard and see that. And then not only the police come, who they look up to, and they see it again. And I have a couple more seconds because she did the hand wash. And what I want to say is before, the shopping cart ordinance is great. It's a start. But like she said, they moved. Now they're on the corner. They're out of the park, which is great. But there's still a couple of stragglers because they have their spot. And if allowed, they're going to come back. And that little girl still lives across the street. And it's our job as community members of being the adults in our community so that no child has to walk out of their house and see that. And what went on there is a shame. It went on for years. And just, it has to stop. If it was your daughter, somebody would have taken care of it. you know? So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Gina.
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor, that I have speaker cards for.
At this time, we will close public hearing. Back to the council members, if you have any questions or comments.
Okay. I'd like to speak, please. I'm the one that's been working on this for the last 2 months. I was already on this path, but then the call from Gina and a couple of other women drove me even harder to get something done. I want people to know that I have compassion for the homeless. I'm not without compassion for the homeless. I turn my head all the time because I do feel bad. But the people living around the parks, and you know, they play a pretty premium for a lot when you're next to a park. I also have compassion for their right to live without seeing things that are not allowed in a park. When did it be okay to drink in a park, use drugs in a park, have sex in a park for anybody, homeless or not? No. So we're giving them more rights than what we have. Thank God, we don't want to do that anyway. But they actually have more rights in a park than folks that are not homeless. I've been on here 2 years, and I've heard nonstop of the sadness from Dunn Park neighbors, and some of them don't even bother calling because they see nothing got done. So I started off over a year ago saying we got to do something because I felt bad. So I said, let's fence the park. But you know, that costs money, and then there's maintenance. And you can't lock a park. You can't lock the homeless out of a park. I'm not trying to tell the homeless they can't go to a park, but you come with a blanket, you stay on top of the blanket, you leave your tarps and your carts and your baby strollers not in the park. I'm sorry, I can't turn my head anymore. People have a right to have peace in their home and not be looking at that. And when the little girl sees that nasty, that sticks for lifetime in your head. That is traumatic for a kid to see an adult like that. Not right. And this isn't just for today. This is for all the time. The police department said, we need a little more teeth. Just a little more teeth. Not just an abandoned cart, but a cart that's being used. A tarp that's being used. A stroller that doesn't have a baby in it. It's got everything under the sun. I saw a lady with a queen-size mattress on a shopping cart. I had to monitor the Briggs building. Finally was able to get that locked up. I feel bad, but you just simply cannot have them in your city parks anymore. And I turned my head when they were behind the high outlet business. I'm not hard-hearted, but no more in the parks. And the way we keep them out of the parks, they can't bring none of their stuff. They're not gonna come to the park without their stuff. And if the cops get a call that they're using drugs or they're naked in the park, they will roll out. And they'll roll out to take somebody to jail. No more. No more in the parks. Now, we met, Brett Miller and I met with Enrique, and I believe it was the head of the CSWD, I could be wrong, or CSDC, excuse me. I'm so sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's name because I just met him. But we met with Enrique because, again, I'm not without compassion. I want to know, where can they go for the day use? We were working on something. Elia was right. You know, the money is an issue, and the COVID came and killed it off, and everybody was switched to emergency stuff. They are working on tiny homes. They are trying to find some kind of plan that will secure a livable spot for them. I suggest some kind of city property somewhere for temporary use, for tents with sanitary facilities. You know, I hate to throw this out there, but if the Leatherback property isn't quite ready for development, we need something close to town. That's why it won't just work anywhere. It's got to be walkable distance to town, the grocery stores. The one out at the county one worked well, but you still got that really long walk there. Some of these folks are never going to go to the homeless shelter, so we got to find a way for the diehards that just don't want to go. And okay, I understand, but they got to go somewhere because now they're shifting. The Gateway Drive was a cleanup by the property owner. Holy cow, I couldn't believe he posted it legally, 72 hours, and the private property owners are responsible for what's going on their site. If you see it, report it before it gets to be that huge camp. Again, we got to continue to work with the county, and Brett Miller is set to have ongoing discussions. And I did mention Mayor Velasquez. I said me and the Mayor Velasquez are on the same page. He's been a big advocate for the homeless. He's also could be a great advocate, for trying to find a spot, but we need to get serious because the folks, I'll tell you folks, we're taking our parks back. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Are we still talking about shopping carts? I'm so confused. Are we on item E1?
Then we're
Yes.
on the shopping cart issue. And
Yeah.
with shopping carts, that's what the homeless put all their stuff in. So you cut the shopping carts off and the baby carriages, and they can come to the park. Nobody said we're excluding them from the park. No, but not
Okay.
with all this
Okay,
stuff.
it's-
Thank you.
Can I please speak?
I'm
Can
sorry.
I please speak? Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
I was
I have the floor.
answering.
Thank you so much. So question for staff. So we're just talking about shopping carts right now. Is that correct?
Councilmember Resendez, that's correct. This ordinance is just shopping.
Are we
carts.
including baby carriages in there as well?
That will be the next ordinance that is before the council right after this one.
Okay, I have to be
They
honest
don't
with you
have
guys. I'm a
babies
little bit
in them,
conf-
Roland. There's no babies in
Can I-
them.
Hang on,
Excuse me.
let Mr. Resendez speak. Go ahead,
Thank you.
sir.
I am a little bit confused. I feel like we are opening up a Pandora's box. I am all for, how can we say? I'm all for helping to assist the homeless problem with ordinances, but I want to be very careful that we're not crossing any lines and that we're not like harassing them in a way. Who's going to be enforcing this? Is the PD on board with taking away shopping carts, or is this just going to be code enforcement, Brian?
It'll initially be code enforcement that responds to the incident. Sometimes code enforcement has to involve a police officer if the situation escalates itself to it. But this is really a code enforcement task that they'll be taking on.
And is this something that's commonly done in other cities to tackle these types of situations, Brian?
In some communities, I don't have the list, but this was something that we talked about locally at the staff level, but I don't have a list of the other communities that have an ordinance like this, though.
So I think we need to, I'm all for some type of ordinance and some type of regulations for sure, but I think we've got to be very careful to do this like in a sensitive way because they are members of within our community, that live within our community. And I feel like we should be partnering with them, not necessarily implementing ordinances that are gonna, quote unquote, could potentially be harassing them. So
We didn't say they can't go to the park.
we have one in place now. I'm just wondering if we can see what other cities are doing, and if we can do this in a sensitive way in partnership with the county, whoever's running that, and then find out what is going on the other end. I know there was some talk, maybe Mayor Ignacio Velasquez can shed some light on the land behind the social services building. I know that there was some talk about it being donated, and there might be some future plans. What I would like to not do is rush into anything and make some potential mistakes just in the sake for saying we're getting something done. I think we need to step back and do it in a logical way, and we really need to include our homeless friends. That's what I wanted to put out there. I don't want anybody to be targeted, and I want to be very careful and very sensitive about this issue. So this is the very first time I've heard of it. I don't want to rush through it, and I gotta say, just hearing the conversations that I've heard right now, if we can have another council member be a part of those conversations. I know that I was sitting on some of those conversations early on, and then I haven't heard anything about it until now. But I just think we gotta be very cautious, take a step back and do this in a sensitive, logical way, and look at what other communities are doing to help tackle this. This to me is probably a little bit too abrasive, I would say, and I don't know if I could support it at this point. I gotta be very honest with you guys. I'm getting a little bit nervous about the language and about the way that I'm hearing it be spoken about. I don't know if I could support it at this time, and I'd like to do a little bit more research.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, this is Chief Reynoso, if I can speak towards the concerns of Mr. Rosendez, Councilmember Rosendez.
Go ahead.
This ordinance has been written we've been working on this for several months with Jason Epperson. We've been going back and forth with code enforcement with Brian. And I think it takes into consideration the facts that the community has been dealing with around the parks. And it's basically to the point where a majority of people don't feel safe using the parks because of the conditions they're in. The current ordinance does not allow us to take carts that, for instance, have been purchased by those individuals that are there in the park. It also doesn't allow us to deal with the carts that are made and carts that used to be baby strollers but are now used to transport materials that are unsanitary and within the park. Having taken all that into consideration, Jason and the whole team worked on this ordinance to be able to still allow the transients or anyone who wants to use the park but not use it to store their carts and the dangerous things that can be in them, and once again make it so that it's unsafe and unsanitary for the other people in the parks. We have found needles in the parks. We have found human feces, and the city staff is continually cleaning and having to spend resources and staff time maintaining the park to the point where the kids and the families can enjoy the park. So this is just a tool that will allow code enforcement and eventually police officers to go over there and enforce this city ordinance, and just simply advise them to if they want to keep their carts, to leave the park. But if they want to enjoy the park, they can be there, but not with all their equipment and beds, as the council member mentioned, and other things that I don't want to mention here is stuff that we found in carts before.
Okay, thank you for that. Did you look into what other cities are doing to address this issue, Mr. Reynoso?
Just similar to what Brian said, don't have a list in front of me, but there are other restrictions like that from other cities. Like I said, we're not going to go in there and take every cart. That's not our goal. Our goal is to educate and advise them that they cannot have those carts in the park. There's a lot of reasons for them not to have them there. Some of them have several carts. There's been an individual there who's had up to 6 or 7 carts, and it just for safety reasons. We would ensure that we educate them first, and our goal is not to cite everyone there, is to obtain compliance through education.
And Councilmember Resendez, this is Jason Epperson. I'll tell you, we did look at language and efforts, language that was used in a number of different cities, as well as different types of enforcement actions, and how they were amending their own shopping cart and park ordinances in order to help deal with some of the problems that Chief Reynoso just discussed. So it's an amalgamation of efforts that have been tried in a number of different cities, as well as a number of things that are unique to the situation here in Hollister.
Okay, then what are we gonna do? I mean, we're taking away their shopping carts. Then what if they get a wagon? Then what? Are we gonna include that in the ordinance? I'm talking about, we're gonna take away their shopping carts. They're gonna find something else. We're moving them from one spot. They're gonna find another spot. Like, what are we doing to really look at remedying the situation in a logical manner? How are we supporting these individuals? What can we do
Put a homeless
to
shelter
really
and gave
give them the solutions they
$250,000.
need, rather than quote unquote like harass them and take away their livelihood?
You're
And
harassing
not to mention
residents.
that we're dealing with a pretty unstable population as it is, and we're in some very unstable times as it is. I just don't know if this is the right thing to do. We're gonna take away their carts, and then what? You know, you're gonna move them out of the park, and then what? They're gonna find somewhere else to go. They're gonna have something else to go. So I'm just wondering if we can look at what other cities are doing to tackle these situations in a creative manner, maybe in a partnership with them. I feel like it's pretty rushed, and I feel like I said it's pretty abrasive.
Can
I don't know.
I?
I'd like to speak again when
Can
you
I-
guys are done.
If I could go ahead and speak, Councilmember Lenore, I think you want to speak. let me have a chance at this, because this is a topic I've been involved with for quite a few years. It is very complicated, a lot of legal issues here. Back in 2015, I presented the concept of a tiny home community, and I could not believe how many people attacked me at that time for having such a crazy idea of putting people into tiny homes. How, at the time, they were saying how unfair it was to the homeless to put them in tiny homes. And it's evolved from there, where we worked with the county on the shelter, because as we went through the laws and understood how the homeless issue expands, I guess you would say, you know, one of the things that we learned is you have to have the base, you have to have the shelter. Without the shelter, you have nothing but legal problems coming at you. So we worked hard with the county to get a shelter built. Unfortunately, the recommendation of 100 beds was rejected for 50 beds. So out of the gate, we were kind of behind on that part. But overall, it's been successful. The issue we have now are, there are homeless that do not want help, will not go to the shelter, will not participate in any way, shape, or form. Carol and I have had these discussions with different strategies out there. The reality is, those are the ones that are not entitled to just go around and create problems in different areas. We've talked about this many times too, where I've requested on several occasions to lease a security firm out at the park to park in front of where some of these activities were happening. The issue is this: the shopping cart part of this makes sense because it's actually property from another person or another business. So legally, we can enforce the shopping cart. What has been disappointing is that even though we put it in the past, we never enforced it or followed through with it. So if we're gonna have a shopping cart ordinance, we're gonna have to have a team prepared to drive through the city at least once a week. Code enforcement, an officer, and a couple other of the staff to pick up the carts and issue citations for it. Because if you don't, the problem continues. As I've said many of times before, with the homeless, if you let them set up, it won't be but 2 to 3 days before it becomes a campground for many others to come in. And as the lady spoke earlier, it doesn't take long for the word to get out and more come out with more debris and start setting up a campsite. The answer to it is actually quite simple. The choice now, because we have the shelter, is you move to the shelter or you move on. And we have to be prepared in all these different locations to be able to enforce it, as we're seeing now on the other location where they're set up. We have to be able to move quickly, and I know that's, again, it becomes private property rights, but we have to have the ability to move quick enough so the camp does not get set up. We are here to help those that want the help, but those that do not want the help and they just want to continue a life of doing what they do, we can't and we shouldn't tolerate that in any way, shape, or form. And it's disappointing that many of these people I used to go to and talk to and offer help, some would take it. Now, if I do have those conversations, it's instantly a threat of lawsuits to the city from this group. Matter of fact, a few of their friends attacked me here on Facebook quite a bit about how dare you come talk to the homeless and threaten them. And I point out, I've never threatened them. I always offer help. My strategy has always been helping hand so we can help them get a better life. But I will never, and Councilmember Lohr, I think, has been very vocal about this too, never allow them to take over our community and just make it a garbage pit. It's not fair to our residents. Now, the issue is, if we're going to talk about private wagons and some of these other things, we do need to do a little more legal research, because that is an area where we can find ourselves in trouble pretty quick, and we got to find out how that works. Tonight, we're talking about the shopping cart. I think that's fair. We can move forward on that, but we do need to have the strategy of how it's going to be enforced. on a consistent basis. Otherwise, it fails. And I know the city manager has been very helpful. I call him at least 2 or 3 times a week about another setup somewhere with shopping carts, and the staff has moved pretty good on it. But we have to really make that effort and be consistent with it. The shelter does have space in there now, and they've been working with us, but we do need to work with the county and the shelter to expand the current facility to add more beds, so we don't hear the comments of there's no place to stay. And so it's a lot of work here. We can do it. You know,
In this century?
Something for everyone to understand too is we recognize we have a problem, as all communities do. All communities have this problem. And San Benito County has been looked at as a model of how we're handling the homeless situation here. But we have to be careful. I know there's some conversations people have thrown out about let's just find a place and we'll put a fence around it and let them camp. That is the worst thing that can happen. Cities, communities that have tried this end up with a major, major disaster on their hands. You can ask Santa Cruz for an example, and a few other communities that I've spoken to in the past. You cannot make this work without a complete system to back up how this camp works. That means the services have to be there. So, you know, we got to go back to understanding the shelter is that location right now at this point. And the idea of just trying to put up a fence somewhere and letting people camp out will turn into a major disaster quite quickly. So we don't want to go down this path, but I do support the idea of the shopping cart, but really reinforce the point of if you're not consistently picking them up, we're not going to get anywhere with this. So this time, this is the first I'm hearing, by the way, about how we couldn't pick them up before, because I've asked this question so many times. And again, I'm sure Councilmember Lenore has asked the same question. Why weren't they being moved out of the park? Why can't we do something on and on? So we have to back this up with the enforcement part of it. We need to make sure all those properties are properly noticed ahead of time so people cannot just go set up camp at these different locations, and we make sure, again, we have the space at the shelter and that's where they go, or they cannot just sleep on the streets or the alleys or in the parks or anywhere else. It's just not fair any longer, and we spend a lot of money to try to build facilities to give them help. Councilmember Lenore, go ahead.
Well, no, well, you know how you're always saying you listen to your constituents, and I know District 2 is always complaining about the speeding. Boy, we bend over backwards to do the traffic calming. Well, in my district, where I don't need another council member to work with me on, in my district of Dunn Park and Park Hill and McCarthy Park, I got vocal residents on me all the time. That's why it's coming now, because it's over a year of doing nothing. I'm tired of doing nothing. When you get the letters and the calls that I get, then maybe you'll feel a little more of that. So, if I don't get support for this, the next calls and emails and texts that I get from the Dunn Park neighborhood, the Park Hill neighborhood, which has grown exponentially if you count Allendale, okay? Those calls keep coming to me. They will get your number, Mayor, and I know they talk to you, but they'll also get your number rolling because I have no more answers. This has been researched. There's no harassment here. The harassment is the people that live with this daily outside their front door. Would you like it? No, I wouldn't like it, and nobody else likes it. So they're gonna need to move on from the city parks with all their stuff. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really
Any other?
quick, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Ms. Resendez.
I just want to say I'm very glad to hear that there's council members that are very supportive into looking into addressing this issue, and the staff. It seems like there's some reignited passion behind it, and I completely agree with it. I just want to say, please be open to ideas in solving this in a creative way. Let's look at what other cities are doing. Let's be sensitive to the population that lives here because they're residents. And I do agree with you, Councilmember Lenore. I would not want to have this in front of my house. You're absolutely 100% correct about that. So, thank you for bringing that up. Please keep in mind my points, and I'd be more than happy to sit in on any of the meetings with any of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I know what Councilwoman Lenore is talking about, because for the last 3 years, not this summer because of COVID, but the 3 years before that, I worked summer school with special ed. We would walk down to Dunn Park twice a week, and our kids were harassed by the homeless. They have rights, but special ed children have more rights. Those kids were afraid. Before we would even let them get on the playground, we would inspect the grounds for needles, for feces, for everything. I had a special ed girl walk into the bathroom to use the bathroom, and there was a woman in there performing her job with a man. That child witnessed that, and that is disgusting. And let's not forget, these shopping carts, they belong to somebody besides the homeless. So these are stolen pieces of property. So I hope that you understand where this is all coming from. And that's all. Thank you.
I just want to add one more tiny thing. I'm not without understanding the responsibility of the property owners to secure their carts. So business owners out there in the downtown Hollister, all the grocery stores, that's your responsibility to keep your carts from leaving your property. So a little bit of help for us on that could actually curb our how much we have to do. So again, get those measures in. It's noted in the ordinance. You have to have those automatic things that put the brakes on the carts, so they can't be taken anymore. Do your part. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have one more comment, Brian. I remember some of the conversations and some of the heated discussions that happened with some of the homeless. They had made the claim that they had purchased the shopping carts, and there was no way you could take them from them. And I knew it wasn't true, but I remember them, or an officer, saying that they had purchased a shopping cart, so there was nothing they could do. So can we please make sure that we have, how do we make sure that somehow somebody didn't sell them a shopping cart and it becomes their private property? So we need to look into that to make sure that can't happen, where the stores are selling the shopping carts to the some of the different individuals.
Mr. Mayor.
Follow up on that.
Mr. Mayor, this is Carlos again. There was apparently 6 carts that were sold by the now closed Kmart facility before the police contacted them in the city, and they stopped doing that. But there was 6 individuals who actually purchased carts. But that's one of the reasons for this ordinance. It not only restricts carts that belong to a store, it also restricts carts that are personally owned or made by them, homemade. And you'll see in other cities when they strictly enforce the no shopping carts ordinances, they make their own carts, and they repurpose baby carriages and other carts, and they just built their own carts. And this ordinance would include, by definition, it will include all those carts that would be restricted.
Yes. Okay. So I thought I heard you say you did know the store that sold them, and they're not doing any longer. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, sir. There was only 6 carts that were sold, and they stopped doing that at that point. And so there's 6 individuals that had those carts, but this ordinance would, regardless if they own it or not, it would restrict it from being in the park.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that information. Any other comments or questions from council?
No.
Is there a motion?
I move that we read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce an ordinance of the city of Hollister. This is the first reading, right, Chris? To have the first reading for a shopping cart ordinance, amending Hollister Municipal Code 9.30, shopping cart containment, and schedule a second reading and adoption of the ordinance at the October 19th, 2020 City Council meeting.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
No.
Motion carries 3-1 vote. We'll move to item E2.
Good evening, Mayor Velasquez, City Council members. My name is Brian Swanson, Development Services Director. The intent of ordinance number 1197 is meant to complement the previous ordinance we just spoke about regarding shopping carts. This is another collaborative effort between the Code Enforcement Division, the Police Department, the City Attorney's Office on ensuring that one of our greatest assets in this community is our public parks. And the intent of this ordinance is to ensure that individuals in the public have access to the park and that tents, abandoned tents or active tents or lean-tos do not provide an impediment to people enjoying our parks, our public spaces, and our sidewalks. And so the intent of this ordinance tonight is to provide the city's Code Enforcement Division the opportunity to, if there's a tent or a lean-to, to be able to enforce those individuals that have those items to take them out of the park and bring them down. So this ordinance before you this evening is meant to talk about these items and what we can do to better have tools in our arsenal to help combat some of the issues that we have in some of our parks.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Again, this is just an attempt to make our parks safer. I don't really have any questions. I understand the report, what it says, and I hope that I can get support. And I think Tina, I don't want to speak for Tina Garza, but I can't imagine that she wouldn't like this. She's in charge of those parks, along with Mike Chambliss. So I really like to give them some help and keeping our parks beautiful, because they're expensive. People like them, and we don't need tarps and tents strung on our trees. And Park Hill gets the worst of that lean-to stuff, because it is a little more out of sight. But you would not believe what goes on at Park Hill, so we're gonna need this as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comment, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so with this ordinance, I think it's pretty apparent when they've got a tent up, they're camping out and they're living there, or they make like a makeshift tent. That is blight, and I think it should be removed. I just want to say that I think it's unfortunate, because what if we did have like regular people that do want to come and put up a tent for the day and just hang out and stuff? Like now they're not going to be allowed to do that, and that's really sad. Again, just later on down the road, if we can look at repurposing the park and making it more, what do they call those areas? We can partner with like local artists and make community placemaking and make use of it in a different way, to where there's more traffic and more children, kind of like they did with McCarthy Park. Then that will help to eliminate that, and then we can allow people to put up tents for the day or whatever, if it's just people hanging out with families, barbecuing or whatnot. So I do support this ordinance. I think it's very apparent that we do have a problem at Dunn Park and Park Hill, as stated by Councilmember Lenore. And if somebody's actually camping out, making a makeshift tent, then that should not be allowed at a park. So I do support this. Thank you.
At this time, we'll open it to public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor? Rick Perez?
My name is Rick Perez. I'm one of the Dunn Park residents. And I've done homeless ministry. I've worked with the homeless many years. I understand they have issues, but that is not fair to those of us that face our responsibilities and raise our children at that park. So I'm totally in favor of the shopping cart and also for the tent, temporary tents, whatever. My question is, that doesn't include like pop-up shade tents, does it? And anyways,
I would,
No,
no.
no,
No,
absolutely
okay.
not.
so yeah, and you know what, it's really nice to have Dunn Park back right now. I know it's unsightly right there across the street from Fourth and Monterey, but it's a lot better than my park.
It's not
Sorry.
better than any park.
Any park, yeah. And you know, I'd look forward to for any resolution we can come up with as not just a city council, but as a city together, coming up with a resolution to find a way to help the people that want the help. And maybe some of them don't even know that they're resisting the help because they're so far out there. I mean, I get it. I have a heart for the homeless too. But I also have, and we have rights too.
Mhm.
Anyways, thank you guys.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, sir.
Elias Salinas?
Thank you. So I just want to remind the council that in 2016, LA County adopted an ordinance limiting the homeless people's belongings to what would fit in a 60-gallon bag, requiring the city to give 24-hour notice for cleanup, and then they could store and confiscate. They'd store the confiscation of the properties for so many days. The issue with the homeless is not because they want to be out there. There's mental issues, there's drug issues, there's alcoholism. There's something else besides them wanting to be out there. There's other issues that we need to get to it. That being said, the adopted ordinance by LA County in 2016 was overturned, actually was overruled, and then the LA County had to settle. And they settled out of court, and it cost them a lot of money. So we need to be very careful. Based on that lawsuit, currently right now, LA County and all cities within LA County, each individual district council member is responsible for their district. There's a state of California versus the cities and the County of Los Angeles, that they must replace the Skid Row sections of their cities to encampment areas. Again, this goes back to the mini homes or the tiny homes project that Velasquez was talking about. And he's been doing this, he's been thought about this for a long time, and there's other areas. Here's the issue with homeless. We all want to help the homeless, but we don't want them in my neighborhood. We don't want them in our backyard, but they got to go somewhere. At the end of the day, I truly believe that there's got to be a place for them. We've got to find a place for them. I remember Mayor Velasquez, I think there was a section off of Wright Road you were looking for. Can you correct the community? Somewhere out there, and they didn't want it out there. They fought you on it because they didn't want them out there. Then there was another section on another side of Hollister, and the people fought you on that. They didn't want them on that. So we ended up settling with the current homeless shelter and expanding it to what it is today. But I really, really do think, again, San Jose, Fresno, and now the cities and the County of Los Angeles are building tiny homes. And I really think that that's where we need to go to try to help these out. Not everybody's gonna live out there. We have a lot of people that live out on the river. We're just talking right now about what's in the city of Hollister that we can see. And there's other people on the other side of town that never see it, and there's people that see it every single day. So we've got to come up with a solution, and I think everyone needs to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
Battalion Chief Bedolla?
Hi, Your Honor and fellow council members. This is Charlie Bedolla, your fire marshal for the city and the county. I just want to commend you and thank you for the hard work on this. I mean, nobody's more compassionate than myself. I do cater out to the homeless, and I do stop them frequently to ask them what their story is and help them out with some food and money also. But I don't know if you do know this, and I thank you for taking care of this, but we've had 5 arson fire attempts recently within the last year. We've had 3 arrests on them. 3 of them have been in the city and 1 in the county. Nobody has gotten hurt or even killed yet, so I thank you for taking these initial steps to help prevent that, because a couple of them were started off with their carts and the distraught people. So getting a hold on them, getting a better handle on them is definitely the right thing to do. So I appreciate it, and I thank you for taking the steps that we can do to take care of this problem all around. And fortunately, nobody's gotten hurt or killed yet. And 2 of them were actually city property where we did suffer some significant damage right here in the back of City Hall also. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
I have no hand raised and no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
This time, we're going to close public hearing. Any other comments from council?
Do have some comments and questions,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Mayor.
sir.
Thank you. Mr. Bedoya, the fires that you stated, were those due to an encampment?
He's coming to the podium.
Thank you. I just apologize. I have a really hard time hearing you guys at the podium today. I don't know why.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Actually, they were all encampments, actually. Someone was living behind here, someone was living at Park Hill, someone was living at Kmart, and someone was living at the river. And the other ones,
Okay,
the
thank
couple
you.
in Park Hill, they were encampments.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. And then my other question would be probably for you, I would assume. As far as property rights, I think one of the speakers brought up an issue about the property rights. What's the plan with their property? What are we going to do with their tents? I know the PD will hang on, like if a transient's arrested, they hang on to their property and they have so many days to claim it. Is there a plan put in place for that
This is only public property.
when we take their belongings? And if not, can we put one in place?
Now, Brian, can I talk on this? I know during code enforcement, we would take their stuff if they weren't able to take it, their private property that wasn't garbage, and we would store it for a certain amount of time. After that, they are given a chance to be able to come pick it up and claim it. After so long, if they don't pick it up, then they dispose of it. Because we did used to go out and collect carts, and we did collect their items, and we would give them a bag to be able to take the stuff that they can take, and then they would, we'd put their stuff in storage, and they have a certain amount of time. I don't remember how many days it was. 60,
I do remember
60
the PD
days.
had a policy like that, and I'm wondering, are we going to have that for this ordinance as well?
Yeah, I don't think anything changes on this.
Yeah, any private property, no matter if it's a tent or a bike, has to follow the regulations we have.
That's private property. We're talking about public property, parks, public
If I
right-of-way,
can
sidewalks,
just finish my
parks.
questions, please.
Right.
And then my last question would be about the language. It's not very clear when I'm looking at the language that we can have canopies. Can we make that pretty clear? Because I do think that we should be able to have people that are going to use the park for the day, that they should be allowed to have canopies. But I can see how it can get into like a sticky situation for somebody to make the argument, oh, I'm just here for the day. Anyhow, if there's a way to clarify that in the ordinance, then that would be probably a good idea. Those are all my questions and concerns. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Make it friendly.
Councilman Lenore, did you have a comment?
No.
Well, I mean, it'd be just common sense. A tent is something that somebody gets in and goes to sleep. A pop-up shade structure has no walls. It just covers your head, so the sun doesn't hit you, right? So, I mean, that would be allowed in a park.
And I would also add, council, the prohibitions here focus on improvised lean-tos and tents and such, not necessarily commercially purchased ones,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilman Lenore, did you have a comment too?
No, I'm all done.
Okay. So thank you. Again, this is another very important piece of it, and thank you, Councilman Lenore. One of the other issues we've had, and the PD can address this, is enforcing the rules out there. And I've talked to many of the homeowners about if they do see illegal, they do need to call the police so the police can respond and arrest those that are doing something. But there has been several occasions where those individuals are in the park, they're drinking alcohol or they're clearly intoxicated and no arrests are made. And I know that goes back to other issues with the court and some of the other prosecuting issues that were going on in the last few years, which has created a larger problem for all of us. Are we gonna be able to now enforce these things to make sure that if someone is found with alcohol or is clearly intoxicated or some other substance, that they can be arrested?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I don't think this restricts us from doing any of those things. If they are drinking in the park, we can take action. You
I'm
are
sorry?
correct. You are correct that right now the court system and the jails are sometimes refusing arrests, but those are citations that we can do. It's a case-by-case basis, but this will give us yet again another set of tools. We can arrive if someone calls us because of a cart or a tent issue, and once we're there, we could, if we find other issues, drinking or drugs and all that stuff, obviously we can take action at that point.
So did I hear you say we would be able to arrest or we cannot arrest?
It's a case-by-case basis, and if it's not an arrest, it's a cite and release, and we would ask them to leave the park at that point. Because one of the conditions for being cited and released is that the violation is not continuing to happen. So if they refuse to leave, then it would turn into an arrest.
And not to stray again from the subject, but this has been part of the problem where many of times, as I've been out there, the homeless would read me the rules that they interpret. And I know it's difficult for you guys, but I think we have to get back to the point of, look, if they're breaking the law, they have to be arrested and taken in. And if the jail decides to discharge them, well, that's gonna be on their side. But I don't think we can just allow it any longer. It's been one of the problems we're having is they know some of these rules and they're willing to just break them. So we need to have the other mechanisms in place to enforce and follow through with these issues. Otherwise, we're gonna keep seeing the same activities. And again, you have a lot of different issues out there, substance abuse and mental issues. I get it, but we have to make sure that if the law is broken, we need to make the arrest. And I'm hoping we could do something to enforce some of those issues.
I think the drunken public is a ticket, Carlos. Is it arrest or a ticket when you're drunk in public?
Well, if they're drunk,
Sometimes it's an arrest.
it's gonna be an arrest because
Okay.
eventually it ends up like a citation. But if the
Okay.
person is drunk in public, that means they cannot take care of themselves.
Okay.
We need to make an arrest, get medical clearance at the hospital,
Okay.
take them to jail, and then at the jail will eventually release them.
So sometimes it's a citation for possession of alcohol?
Yes, you're
But the drunken public is an arrest.
correct. You're
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
And aren't they released, like, after they've slept it off for a while?
And yes,
Sobered
you're
up a little
correct.
bit.
In many cases, these people are arrested. We have to go to the hospital for medical clearance and then go to jail, and they can be released relatively quickly, sometimes even before the report is completed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No.
Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce ordinance number
1197.
1197 and schedule it for a second reading on October the 19th. Oh, did we want to make the friendly amendment to clarify canopies? Do you want to say that shade canopies are exempt? I think Councilman Resendez was interested in that. Or are we just gonna leave it as it's allowed? Do we want to say that canopies are okay?
I think the canopies are commercially
And
purchased
they're-
items.
okay,
They
so we're
are
satisfied with
addressed
that.
in there.
Okay, no friendly amendment, thank you.
Okay, leave it as it is. There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Motion and second. All in favor?
aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0.
I
We'll
want to
move to
thank you
item-
for your support, Mayor and Councilman Resendez.
Thank you for following through on this. Very important. Item E3.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Maria. I am the Cannabis Affairs Manager with the City of Hollister within the Development and Services. Tonight, the item before you is a request for a cannabis use permit and development agreement, CUP/DA 2020-2 for 3GM Inc. The applicant is requesting an approval from the City of Hollister of a cannabis use permit to operate a cannabis cultivation facility out of 1891 Airway Drive, located in the Airport Support Zoning District, further identified as San Benito County Assessor's Parcel number 053-420-037-000, and it's categorically exempt under CEQA. The project site is approximately 3.7 acre parcel located at 1891 Airway Drive within the City of Hollister. The project site fronts Aerostar and Airway Drive. Access to the property is provided via Airway Drive. And the site is, like I said, is developed and is surrounded by airport support and industrial business park uses. It contains a 47,500 square foot warehouse building for the operations that are being requested tonight. The project also includes improvements to the interior of the facility with minor repairs to the exterior. The approval, again, is for a cannabis cultivation facility, and what that means is any activity involving planting, growing, harvesting, drying, curing, grading, or trimming of cannabis. With that said, staff tonight is recommending that the City Council hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution approving the cannabis conditional use permit / development agreement for 3GM to operate a cannabis cultivation facility at 1891 Airway Drive. I'm available for any questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions for council?
No.
No.
Okay, at this time we'll open it up for public comment for the public hearing. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, however, I do have people on Zoom that signed up. Ronald Ward, you were the first person that signed up. Did you want to speak? Go ahead, you need to unmute yourself.
Ron is the applicant, and he's available if there's any questions too. I'm not sure if there's anything additional that he would like to say tonight, but I know he was having issues with Zoom and stuff.
How about Jason Fong? Jason, did you want to say anything? Okay, Ronald would like to speak. Ronald, go ahead.
Yeah, so Jason was having the same issues with the Zoom, so we're sorry about that. Jason is one of the partners in 3GM, and there's nothing at this point, so sorry about the confusion.
That's okay. Ken Lindsay?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Ken, go ahead.
Mr. Lindsay?
You need to unmute, Mr. Lindsay. There you go.
There you go. I just tuned in so that I could be available for any questions that might involve the property, you know, the building itself, or the business park.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers?
I have no other speaker cards or speakers with their hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, we will close public hearing. Bring it back to the council. Any questions or comments from council?
I have none.
Is
No.
there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-196, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving a conditional cannabis use permit development agreement for 3GM Incorporated 2020-02 to operate a cannabis cultivation facility at 1891 Airway Drive.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We'll move to item F1.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. F1 is a resolution brought to you by the fire department on behalf of Chief Executive Officer Joe Bowman from First Trust Alarm Company. They're donating $5,000 for the effort of public education and department expenditures. So how this was brought to be was through the diligent efforts of Chief Bedolla as the fire marshal, working in coordination with First Trust Alarm. They saw it fit to provide us with this award of $5,000 because of the close attention and focus that we've had to provide this corner of development. Chief Bedolla, did you want to add anything in there?
Yeah, we work closely with these other vendors and these other contractors, and what he just said is like, hey, I have some money that I want to help donate to the community that you could utilize for the fire department for the community. Will you guys accept this? So it was like, yeah, sounds good. And then all of a sudden he's like, no, for reals, we really want to. So, we're going to use it towards the operations, prevention, and training, and we'll decide from there. So it was really thoughtful, and we really do appreciate it. They are our go-tos, and we do work closely with them, and we do work diligently to try to keep business going and getting everybody up and running and in business. So I thank you for this.
Any questions pertaining to this?
I'm glad
Any
he wasn't
questions?
joking.
I think this is wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Bowman, very much.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
Do we have
Charlie,
any
way to
speak-
go.
Do we have any speaker cards?
I have
No?
no speaker cards. F,
It's F1.
I have no speaker card, Mr. Mayor, and I have
Thank
no
you.
hands raised. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 202197, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister allowing the Hollister Fire Department to accept a donation of $5,000 and approving a supplemental appropriation for department expenditures FY 2020-2021.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Move to item F2.
Good evening, Mayor Velazquez and council members. Tina Garza, Recreation Supervisor. The item before you is a resolution that will approve an amendment to the September 8, 2020 agreement with San Benito County to add 2 additional dates to a drive-in movie event at the Veterans Memorial Park. The City of Hollister Recreation Department has offered 3 drive-in movies to the public at the Veterans Memorial Park. Registration is full for all our drive-in movies, and each event has been a huge success, and staff would like to offer additional drive-in movies to the public, allowing others the opportunity to experience the pleasure of a drive-in movie event. I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions from council?
I have none.
I have none.
Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-198, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving an amendment to the agreement with San Benito County to add 2 additional dates to a drive-in movie event at Veterans Memorial Park parking lot.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0.
Thank
We'll
you,
move to
County of
item-
San Benito.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
I was thanking the County of San
Oh.
Benito.
Okay. F3. We'll move to F3.
Hi, good evening. Again, it's Tina Garza, Recreation Supervisor. This item before you is a resolution that will authorize a public assembly permit at the City of Hollister's Municipal Airport for the City of Hollister Recreation Department drive-through Treat Street event scheduled on Saturday, October 31st, 2020 from 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. The City of Hollister Recreation Department is unable to hold the annual Treat Street Halloween event in its usual manner due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So instead, Recreation staff desires to hold a drive-through Treat Street event on Saturday, October 31st. There will be approved social distancing measures set in place by the San Benito County Health Department, and there will be no charge to the public. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
I have a question. Tina, fantastic idea. Will the kids, they'll be in the car, will people be giving them candy?
Yes, so we are going out to our local communities and nonprofits, and then our city departments are challenged to bring in bags of candy over to the community center. And with all those bags of candy, we will be placing them in goodie bags. And our goal is to assemble 1,000 bags this year.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tina.
Question.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think last year was your first year, or was it the year before that? I can't remember.
So it was 2 years ago. We're going into our third year now.
Okay, and I know they were both huge successes. How many kids did you service? Like just a quick estimate, last year and then the year before that.
Our first year, we set a goal of 500. And then last year, with the support of San Benito County Library, we were able to give out 800 bags. So this year we set a goal of 1,000, and we've received a lot of community sponsorship.
Amazing. I love this kind of stuff. I've said it to you guys before. Very grateful to you for coming up so just being so creative, going with the times and pivoting to accommodate our community and still provide these traditions. They're going to absolutely love it. And I'm very grateful to you and all the staff for doing this. So thank you again. And I wish you guys the best of luck out there, Tina.
Thank you, Councilmember Resendez.
Thank you. Any speaker cards on this item?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor, and I have no hands raised.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from council?
I have none.
I do have one other thing. Tina, if somebody wants to donate bags of candy, community members, where would they take that? Would they bring it to the rec center, to you?
Yes, please, at 300 West Street here at the community center. Staff will be able to go out there and pick up the bags from them, I should say.
Okay, because I think we need to let the community know that they can donate bags of candy. I know last year, I think I donated 10 bags of candy.
You did.
Yeah, a lot of community support. And we have, we've reached out to our local businesses, just letting them know that we're trying to do this, but we still need the support of our council. So it was going on the agenda today. So after tonight, we'll start advertising.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-199, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving a public assembly permit for the City of Hollister Recreation Department's drive-through Treat Streets event on October 31st, 2020.
Thank you. Motion, is there a second?
I will second that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0 vote. We'll move to item F4.
Thank you. Good evening. This is Eva with the Planning Department. The item before you tonight, F4, was continued from the September 21st City Council meeting, and you also heard this item in June. As a reminder, this item is for a request for the city to provide out-of-jurisdiction services to a proposed county development located at 1735 Santa Ana Road for a 40-unit subdivision on 21 acres. This property is located within the city's sphere of influence and the city general plan planning area. And as mentioned in the staff report, the city staff, we would recommend that properties located within our sphere of influence be pre-zoned for annexation to allow for development, which is in accordance with our city codes and ordinances and general plan. However, tonight, the item for your consideration would direct staff to submit an application to AFCO for the provision of sewer services outside of the city's jurisdiction to this property. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Not at this time.
Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, Mr. Mayor? Co Cooper? Sure. Anthony Lombardo?
Good evening, members of the council and Mayor Velasquez. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Hopefully the fourth time on this one will be the charm. We were in front of you, before you in June with the application. That application was a result of the demand that the county received from the city after this application was originally filed in 2018, that the development be done at a higher density and receive sewer service from the city. So the applicant has spent about a year revising their application and redesigning it to do just that. So you could imagine how stunned we were in June when the hearing was being conducted to learn that the city, although it demanded that we redesign the project at a higher density and receive sewer service from the city, refused to provide the requested will serve letter. So since June, the applicant has gone back and worked on addressing particularly one of the issues raised by the council, and the council in June said there wasn't anything about this project that benefited the city of Hollister. So the applicant took those comments to heart and went back and has now redesigned the project to be 25% affordable housing. And I believe that council has seen the letter that the county wrote stating that they would be willing to share a portion of that housing for the RHNA numbers of the city. In other words, give the city some of the credit for that housing. So at this point, the applicant has responded to the demand of the city from 2018, and he believes, and he'll speak to you in a moment, has done what the council asked in June, which is to provide a project which provides an extraordinarily high level of affordability, 25%, in order to provide extraordinary benefits to the community, as which he shouldn't really have to do to obtain the sewer service, because you have a contract that mandates that you provide that service. There is no discretion, as I think I've said to you previously and included in my previous correspondence. So as I mentioned in the letter we sent you today, you have a mandatory duty to provide this service. You have never turned down any other applicant, and this applicant has done more than any other applicant that we have been able to locate in your previous actions by providing this housing project with an extraordinary level of affordability. In addition, of course, there will be additional park fees paid to the county, which of course helps residents of the city and the county as well with park improvements. So Mr. Stotler is going to address you, and I'd like to have a moment or two to respond to any comments from the public at the end of the hearing if there are any. Thank you.
He can't. He has one time.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you again tonight. We're 3 years into the process here. Here we are, I think the third time we've been here. We met initially, as Mr. Lombardo had mentioned, with county and city staff And we were gonna go full speed ahead based on the zoning of the property existing as it is. We're gonna go with septic systems. The city said they wanted a higher density because we are in the, what you call the sphere of influence, meaning that at some point, perhaps this property is gonna be a candidate for annexation. The annexation, though, there are several properties between our property and between the city limits. So as far as the annexation, one of the questions that Councilwoman Lenore had mentioned at our first hearing was, we haven't seen this come before the city for a request for annexation. And Mayor Ignacio, 2 years ago, I remember calling you, perhaps you remember our conversation. I talked to you about perhaps getting a move to go annexation, and you had pretty much told me that it was not gonna happen to my knowledge. And what I understand, and I understood the conversation very clear, that there's not much of a chance of it getting annexed. And as a result, I didn't provide or submit an application to go annexation, because I knew that to do that, we'd have to be expending more dollars, applications, and doing all that. I usually, when I have a project I'm working on, if we're pretty much told that there's not much of a chance of it happening and basically would be, not gonna get approved, I didn't wanna go down that road. So what we did do was we also understood that there was this memorandum of understanding. And what I'm wanting to do is I'm trying to make this a win-win situation for the city of Hollister too, the citizens here. You've got an expensive sewer treatment plant that was put in. My understanding is the treatment plant was actually designed to handle the capacity of not just the city of Hollister, but the outlying areas as well. You're way under capacity right now, and by us being allowed to be able to be hooked up to sewer is gonna generate more fees for the city to help offset the cost of that sewer. The only other opportunity is if that doesn't happen in time, eventually the citizens are gonna either have to pay higher sewer fees or something to be able to pay for the sewer system that's been installed. We also did something very creative that I've never been involved with doing this before, but we wanted to come up with a benefit for the city. We've been able to allocate 2 affordable BMR allowable affordable units for the city of Hollister, not just for a couple families to move into, but also to help qualify for the arena numbers for the Housing Affordability Act for the city. There's also gonna be, as mentioned by Tony, a contribution in park fees, that by us building this type of project, we have park fees that we'll be paying. Those parks are gonna be enjoyed by citizens of Hollister as well as people in the community as well. Also, I know that, you mentioned about commercial growth. I can tell you, I have a lot of experience in Morgan Hill, and planned growth control is actually.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. This would be a benefit to the citizens of Hollister, I believe.
Thank you.
Ann Hall?
Ann Hall, I'm here on behalf of the applicant. And as has been discussed, this project's been several years in the making. And the initial discussions obviously were all with the county. This property is in the city sphere. We've had several, and when this was initially proposed and going to county meetings, the city manager at the time, Bill Rivera, was very vocal that the fact that this would be on septic within the city sphere of influence was a problem. And they could not support this project in that case. So we went, again, had more meetings with the city and staff, redesigned the project to tie into the city sewer. And I can tell you, annexation was never mentioned as a realistic option for this project in any of those meetings with city staff. This is a half mile from the city boundary right now. It's not contiguous to anything. I know from experience that if we even tried to apply for pre-annexation, the staff most likely wouldn't bring it to you because it's so far away. So you've kind of created property that's inside the city sphere that the city will not annex and will not supply something sewer to, and it can't develop in the county. And for the property owner, I feel he's made several attempts to try to thread the needle between what he's allowed to do on this property and what will make the city in favor of this project, and I don't know how he's supposed to do that. At the last meeting we were here, you said you thought it should be annexed. He can certainly do the non-protest. LAFCO has asked that before, that you do a non-protest for future annexation. But realistically, if this came before you for annexation, it wouldn't go anywhere. So is this, I mean, I think what we're trying to do for getting out of district services meets the city's priority of not creating septic within the sphere. But it's also realistic about the ability of this property to be annexed anytime in the near future. I think if the city wanted to have non-protest agreements done, the property owner has no issue with that. But in the meantime, there's been a lot of attempts to do the things the city is asking, and it's still being turned down. I'm not sure where to go with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Scott Stotler? Oh, okay. Co Cooper?
We go to the same barber. Mayor Velasquez and City Council members, my name is Co Cooper, and I have been a resident of San Benito County for the past 46 years. I've not only followed this project intimately for the past 2.5 years, but I have been involved in many of the meetings with both county and city staff, the civil engineers, legal counsel, and a host of other entities as the applicant has tried tirelessly to meet the wishes of everyone. As originally proposed, this project sought for approval of 20 one-acre lots, which is consistent with county requirements. One day prior to voting for approval, and after nearly 1 year of engineering, required studies, and waiting for input from the City of Hollister because it fell within their sphere of influence, the City of Hollister requested more time to submit their input. This was granted by the County Planning Commission. Then, after meeting with city staff, it was mutually agreed that the applicant should increase density to half-acre lots, provide for BMR housing, and to pay to have a sewer line brought all the way to the parcel, as the city wished to increase the number of patrons utilizing the new sewer plant. It is my understanding that the sewer plant is currently at less than 50% capacity, and hookups help to spread the cost over a greater population. It is also worth noting that the city has approved several similar extension projects in the recent past. Now, the applicant is here tonight because apparently some are unsure if they want this project connected to the sewer plant, which would force it back to 20 individual septic systems, as originally planned. I, along with the applicant, request that this extension finally be approved. It makes economic sense to both homeowners and renters. It also makes ecological sense as the water is treated prior to returning to the aquifer. I encourage you to approve this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elias Sanchez?
Sanchez?
I'm sorry, Salinas. I don't know why I do that.
Elliot, you get married?
Good evening, council members. I've followed this project for a few years already, and here's the mistake that was made. I am guilty of the same mistake. When I came on board, continually coming to council meetings, it was because I was trying to get cannabis to come into the economic development and bring cannabis industry to Hollister. And what do you do when you come into a new city or a new county? You go to the supervisors, or you go to the city council, and you go to the mayor, because the mayor is the head of the city council. Well, the mayor is the chair of the city council for the city of Hollister, because this is not a charter city and the mayor does not have any power. I made that mistake, and that's the mistake they made, is they went to the mayor, directly to the mayor, gave him the project, and not knowing that the mayor doesn't have the power, he's only one vote, he said he would not allow this project to go through. They want this project to go through, so they did exactly what they've done. And they've jumped all the hoops. This is a great benefit to the community where we pay a lot of money for sewer. And if this project can help the citizens of Hollister with something, with part of the bill, and we have a bill where I believe it's the motor or something to do out at it's gonna cost us, what, $700,000? If I remember, I could be exaggerating the price. This helps us alleviate this. They've jumped through hoops. I don't wanna hear the word lawsuit, but if that's their recourse, they have it. But instead of doing that, let's just put this forward through and let them get tied up to the city sewer. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor, but I thought Anthony wanted a couple of seconds after. I don't know if he gets 2 turns, but I don't think so.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I have no more
So
speakers,
all the
Mr. Mayor.
speakers are done. They've all spoken, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then we'll close public comment. Do we have any comments from council?
Yes. Paul, can you come and assist me just for a second? Because I made the printing small again and I need you to make it big again.
It happens to me all the time.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, I wanted to clarify my position because it's here again, so I'm gonna clarify again that, I have a different stance on development than some folks here. I'm not afraid of development, and I'm not a hater of development, but I am a fan of orderly development. So I'm glad that the applicant and Ann's acknowledged that septic tanks, are a violation of policies both within the county general plan and the city of Hollister. So it's good to see we acknowledge that. I'm gonna talk about this letter that was dated, June 15th, 2018 to the County Planning Department from the Development Services Department Planning Division of the city, authored by Eva Kelly. It says it all for me. I hope that you guys understand and you've read it. The city laid it out pretty clear here on this development, on why it's not a good idea to do it in the county. As far as the arena, the density is too low. Those 2 or 3 units don't do anything for us. The problem with this is that you're trying to do it in the county when the city would have a much higher density. It would be a better use for the land, and you would get much higher arena numbers out of it. Just give me a second here. So this property could support 160 dwelling units, which would support the needs of the community much better than a project that only proposes 20 units. Moving on to the parks. So the parks. So there is no open space park area proposed in this project site. The initial study states that the property would be annexed to the city of Hollister in the future because it is located in the sphere of influence. However, the development will create an incremental demand for recreational facilities and programming in the city of Hollister. However, impact fees could be collected by the county and would not contribute to expansion of park facilities once it's within the city of Hollister. The 20-acre site at an average density of 6 units per acre is encouraged by the city would require parkland dedication and construction of a minimum of 2 acres on the site. It's even more than that now since 2018. So even though they're gonna pay fees, those fees are not coming to the city of Hollister, but we will end up with a park that we have to pay to maintain. Parks cost a lot of money. The money has to be there for the maintenance, not just the construction, but the maintenance. The CEQA evaluation did not consider environmental impact to city facilities and services thoroughly. The impact should have been taken into consideration the fact that the primary demand for services of all kinds would come from the city. This project being in the unincorporated area would not have to pay into the impact fees for traffic, parks, police, and fire to the city that other developments that are within the city or are annexed into the city limits are required to pay. That's why when you see us doing those landscaping and lighting, adding them to the thing, they're done pre-development so that you have one developer and one property owner agreeing to those fees. If you try to annex a piece of property that's already developed in the county, you gotta have an election. Those folks have to willingly take on that assessment for these impacts. Will they do that? I doubt it. Who's gonna tax themselves if they don't have to? That's our job, and that's why we do it. The project would need to tie into current sewer, okay? To avoid the construction of new septic systems. All right, we talked about that. I just want folks to read this letter. This is where I come from. Talks about transportation and circulation, and it goes in depth. It doesn't line up with our circulation plans. It comes out, it's offset on Santa Ana. Let's see. Does not show consistency for existing and proposed bikeways within the surrounding Hollister. This is dumb growth. This is what the mayor's always talking about. There's a smart way to do it, and you gotta tie it in. It needs that connectivity, not just for vehicles, but for pedestrians and bicyclists. The environmental analysis did not evaluate the consistency of the project within the circulation element. So, I have nothing against development. This is my opinion on this property. It's just too early. We have property in between this and the property, the city limit line to the west. And this property has a big gap. Yeah, we have a big gap over there in Los Altos. That's why we should have never been doing those. You just do the annexation, and then you don't have this problem. You have a subdivision that's built to county standards. You're trying to annex it into a city that has urban standards. It doesn't work. That's why we haven't been able to do them all. So you don't compound this by making the same mistake. Because this does not pencil for the city once it's developed and annexed. Those are my comments. I'm sticking to my guns here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No?
I heard somebody say something about I might have misled the developer, making him think I had the power to make these decisions. That's absolutely incorrect. Every developer in this community knows I don't have the authority to approve or disapprove any projects. It's a vote of 3 that make that decision. So just want to make sure for the record, everyone understands that never happened. With that, we'll go ahead and, is there a motion on this item?
I make a motion that we accept Resolution 2020-200, out of jurisdiction sewer request, 1735 Santa Ana Road.
There's a motion. Is there a second? I will second your motion. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Let me clarify, point of clarification. The motion is to approve the outside jurisdictional boundary request. Is that the motion?
Yeah.
That is the motion. I'm backing up her, allowing her to make her motion. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Clarification, Mayor, please. I want to clarify that the motion is to approve the out-of-boundary service.
Yes, and that is her motion, yes.
Seconding that in agreement, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Your second is to support the out-of-boundary service?
No, I'm just seconding her motion so there can be a vote.
I got it, thank you. Well, okay.
Thank you.
Let it die for a lack of second.
Okay, yes. So there's a motion, there was a second, there was a vote, 1 vote for yes. Those against?
Aye.
No.
No. The motion fails, 1-3 vote. That's it.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry?
I believe if you second, it's a yes.
No. It just allows go to a vote.
He can move or he can second and then vote, however they would like.
Okay.
Each member.
Thank you.
Should have just let it die for lack of second.
This way it just goes to a vote. All right,
Oh, yeah. I'm on the
motion
record
does not
for
carry.
saying yes.
So one more time, it was,
The vote was 1-3.
I said yes. I approved. I like the idea. Put it on the record that Honor Spencer voted yes.
Put it on the record, Carolyn R. voted no. For the reasons stated.
Did you want, it's already voted. You guys want this as a roll call vote? Motion, all right, we're gonna move to item F5.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item F5 is, recently you supported a permanent ballot box to be at Fire Station 2. The county would like to amend that agreement to add a security camera on that ballot box. The security camera will only be active 29 days prior to an election. It's just for added security. I've received a favorable response from Fire Chief Martin Del Campo and City Manager Miller. The fire chief and the county will again decide on the placement, like they did the ballot box, of the actual camera. And I'm just asking for that to be amended. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Any
I do.
speaker cards? Go ahead, sir.
I remember when this first came up and I asked, I think I called Mr. City Manager Brett Miller and asked him if there was a security camera. So I'm glad they're doing that. And then I guess, I don't know if you guys have the answer for me or not, but I'm just wondering, are they putting security cameras on the other ballots as well? Because I think that's a really good idea.
I
Not sure if you
believe,
know the answer. Just
I
throwing it out
believe
there.
they are all permanent ballot boxes, but I could ask that question of the county. I only know about this one because it's on city property.
Okay, and then I thought this was just a temporary box. I thought they were
No,
going to remove
it's
it.
permanent. However, if
Okay.
something happens and the agreement gets broken or that ballot box needs to go, in the agreement, they have agreed to put the property back to the state in which they found it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-201 as stated.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to item G1, report from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Lenore?
Okay, I have, try to be brief, but there's three of them. I'll start with the Area Agency on Aging, had a meeting on, September 16th. They reported that, to qualify for additional CARES Act funding, to fund some ADRC. ADRC is Aging and Disability Resource Centers. So they did perform, the AAA did perform a rapid assessment interview with Pauline Valdivia at the Senior Center, who is a core partner in the ADRC. The report was sent to CDA, the California Department of Aging, on August 31st. And the rapid assessment addresses things like workforce, population, and service capacities in response to COVID-19. Okay, moving on to AMBAG, I had a meeting on the 9th. We extended an MOU for the Central Coast Coalition. MOU, which purpose is to increase awareness of the US 101 corridor along the Central Coast as a major economic asset to the region and to secure investments for its improvements. The coalition consists of Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, San Benito County COG, Transportation Agency of Monterey, San Luis Obispo COG, the Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission, and AMBAG. The group has been meeting since 2010. The new MOU is for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2025. Okay, and then also we discussed the AMBAG adopted, we discussed the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Sustainable Communities. AMBAG adopted the 2040 MTP in June 2018. Federal and state law require that AMBAG prepare a long-range transportation plan every 4 years. So in accordance with state and federal guidelines, the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan is scheduled for adoption in June of 2022. And then last, I had a very delightful meeting, as always, with the Water Resource Association. And I got just a short thing here, but it's very important. Because we know that water, doggone it, my thing was off. So we know that water is the most important resource, and we know that. So I wanted to make sure when I relay this, so I got it right from Sean Novak today. I got a little refresher. So he stated that I asked him about the groundwater management plan, but he replied that the chapters are being worked on now for the groundwater sustainability plan to meet the requirements of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Plan. That's the SGMA. We hope to have it completed and draft by 2021, July 2021. And they're also working on the Urban Water Management Plan that is updated every 5 years. This is a joint effort between the city, Sunny Slope, and San Benito County Water District. In addition, the Agricultural Water Management Plan is due for San Benito County Water District. There will also be due around July 2021. So the COVID interrupted them a little, but they got a lot of big projects coming in the way of water. And they do a good job over there managing our water. I know that they've done a great job, so I look forward to everybody working with them. They do know that I'm a short timer. That was my last meeting. I thank them so much for letting me participate in their meetings. I'll thank the mayor for replacing me on that, but I did thank them. I learned some stuff, didn't really make a lot of hard decisions, but you know, I made some and made some comments. But there is a lot of water work coming forward, and that'll be for your next council to partner with this agency. And hopefully the representation will stay strong from the council over to the Water Resource Association. And those are my reports for committees. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Spencer,
No reports.
Councilmember Resendez.
I don't have anything to report, but I do want to say one thing. Whatever it was, I'm assuming it's Paul or Councilmember Lenore, you guys did in the middle of her report to her microphone, it was very helpful. It came across nice and clear. And then I'm probably going off track here, but Carol, you have really been dedicated to all your committees. I'm sure they were glad to have you, and your reports that you brought back have been very informative, so thank you for that. I'm gonna miss that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any reports from any committees at this time. We'll move to item G2, informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Lenore.
Just a real quick comment. I did get another comment or two on the garbage downtown because there's so many more people using it. I just want to make sure that Recology is doing the extra duty there I don't want to see any overflowing garbage cans, and we got to get those sidewalks clean more often. I'm sorry, I hate dirty sidewalks.
Right.
And it's not good when you're eating. So we could pay attention to the sidewalks and no overflowing garbage cans.
Mayor, can I respond real quick? Starting on October 12th, Recology will be collecting the trash Monday, Wednesday, and Friday instead of the current Tuesday and Friday. So that should improve it.
Thank you so much. That's all I have for that kind of stuff.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Spencer.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Resendez.
I do have something to report, and I'm hoping you guys would support me on this. It's a little bit selfish on my part, but I think we're headed in the right direction. I went out of town this past weekend and to an area that's very dog friendly, San Luis Obispo, and even the hotels are very dog friendly. The restaurants are very dog friendly. I've noticed that since we have like outdoor dining, we're already having people bring their little dogs. I just think it would really help out with not only tourism, but animal lovers like myself, if we can adopt or look at adopting an ordinance that will support us having a dog-friendly downtown area / hotels, anything we can do to do that. I've had conversations with Brett about it, and I wanted to bring that to you guys and see if you can possibly consider that in the next meeting or so. And I think that's it on my part. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to invite everyone on Wednesday, October 7th, 11 a.m. We're going to have the ribbon cutting for Highway 25. So that big day is finally here, and I'm inviting everyone out to come join us for that COG event. And again, it will be at 11 o'clock on Wednesday, October 7th. So I want the public to know this is a $241 million project, something we've been working on for years, finally got approved. Come see it to believe it. Good day. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
may I
Mayor,
ask where?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is gonna be at the park and ride at the, along Highway 25 where the range is. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. Please, Mr. Mayor, one other announcement.
What?
It was kind of significant for me as I spent considerable time on the 400 block project. I was honored to be part of the groundbreaking for the Epicenter, which is the building that the Community Foundation is building at the very generous philanthropy from the Wolf family. So I was there. It was a nice end to the long process from supporting it at Planning Commission to coming to support it on council, and really got a good vibe for that center. I think the city will be happy with that project, and I was honored to be part of that groundbreaking next to Leon Pineda, our Congressman Ana Caballero, Senator, and Assemblyman Rivas. But there was a lot of good speakers that day. I just wanted to say good luck to them. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did get the address now. It's 1950 Balsa Road. It's in front of the San Benito County Sheriff's Office Training Center, the gun range in the outdoor parking area. So thank you for reminding me of that. City Manager?
Nothing to report.
City Attorney?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Hollister Police Department is proud to announce that it has joined the Pink Patch Project this year. The goal of the Pink Patch Project is to raise money for combating, researching, and raising awareness about breast cancer. Members of the police department and animal care and services are authorized to pink out their uniforms for the month of October in support of this worthy cause. And for the first time ever, the Hollister Police Foundation will be making a pink version of our HPD uniform patch available for the general public for purchase at the Hollister Police lobby. We also have a limited number of coins and pins from prior years' fundraisers still available for purchase. All donations are tax deductible in partnership with the Community Foundation for San Benito County and the Hollister Police Foundation. We proudly do this for our wives, our daughters, mothers, sisters, co-workers, friends, and fellow community members, and we do it for every woman and man affected by this horrible disease. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item G3.
Good evening, City Council members. This is Jamila Saka, the Housing Programs Coordinator, and I'm here just to provide a summary of the recent grants that we have applied for within the past year and providing a status report on them as well. The first one in the staff report is regarding SB2, the Planning Grants Program. At this time, we are currently drafting the request for proposals that will be submitted. They will next need to be reviewed by our city attorney. And then we will also be publicly noticing the fact that we are having these requests for proposals being sent. We do have some ideas to be able to save some of the money and be able to use it for larger things, and potentially doing some of the work related to the inclusionary policy in-house as well, and to be able to use some guidance from other surrounding jurisdictions and what we have been able to work on and review with other agencies that are providing inclusionary housing as well. The second grant, and so, excuse me, let me go back to SB2 real quick. I just want to let you know that we do have the standard agreement. So that one is $160,000 that we'll be able to provide for our specific things we applied for, such as updating our ADU ordinance and then updating our website as well. The next grant we just applied for back in the end of June. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of delay with the state. I emailed them late last week, and they said they are still in the review process, so they do not have a timeline as to when we will receive our standard agreement. They're hoping within the next month or two. So I apologize, we will not necessarily have that funding yet, but it's okay that it's delayed slightly. This funding will be used towards our housing element for our sixth cycle. So we still haven't finished, working with AMBAG and our local COG for starting that process. So it's okay that it's a little bit delayed. I'm just really hoping in the end that the state will adjust their timeline accordingly as well. The third one that we are in the process of applying for is called REAP, the Regional Early Action Planning Grant. So this one is administered through our local COG, where we will be completing an application and submitting it to them. And then our COG, along with the local AMBAG, will be submitting an entire application to the state. So we just received the application at the end of September, and we are planning to provide the staff report and resolution at the next city council meeting. And then the entire application is due November. In addition, because we understand that housing elements at times, can be expensive, we do anticipate to apply for this grant towards our housing element expenses. The next grant that we have applied for at the end of August is our Community Development Block Grant related to COVID. So this was a joint effort between the City of San Juan Bautista, the City of Hollister, us, and San Benito County, where we have applied for rental and utility assistance for individuals who have been impacted by COVID. Like I stated, we did apply in late August, but we are still pending confirmation and receiving a standard agreement from the state. I'm not sure on a timeline on that. I plan on sending out a request or an email to get an update, hopefully this week. I just wanted to allow some time. I know the state has received a lot of applications for these various grants. The next one listed in the staff report is the acronyms PLHA, or Permanent Local Housing Allocation. This is a portion of the second year funding from SB2. At this time, we have not applied for this grant. I'm anticipating to apply in the next notice is, I believe January is what it shows on the calendar, but with COVID, things may possibly be delayed. With this grant, like I stated, and like it's shown in the staff report, it is something that we can apply on an annual basis, but we do have to have a 5-year plan. So that's something that I think working directly with staff and our city council is something that I would like to do in the next few months, and hopefully bring more detailed reports related to this grant so that we can be able to get feedback. Because the intention through the state is to be able to have, like I said, a long range plan. So it's not necessarily a grant that you apply for annually and you're changing your plans or you get to adjust. It really is something that when you apply, you are showing to the state what you intend and what you would like to do. That completes the end of the report provided from the staff report. I just want to know if there are any questions, comments, or anything that I can help provide in further detail.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for the update.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamila, and to all the staff. Thank you so much for all your diligent work.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Item H, I, J, and K, there is no business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.